Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
Time for Truth Show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to a Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It's a pleasure to have you back again. 2025, boy, it's been cold, but it's nice and warm in the studio. We have a great show for you tonight. First, I want to answer a question many of you have been asking. How do I get all the previous episodes of A Time for Truth? Very simple. Go on YouTube. Click on A Time for Truth Show. A Time for Truth Show. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll be availed of all the episodes over the last 4 years. Tremendous amount of information. And tonight, we're very lucky to have someone that's going to give you a very inspiring story. This is an individual who's changing the world through her leadership, her resilience, and really tremendous purpose that imbues her life. She's a truly remarkable person, Dr. Gloria Crosslin. And Buddha, if you put up her pictures on the screen, there you go. Dr. Crosslin's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. From witnessing her mother's courageous fight for justice in a landmark Supreme Court case, to her own impactful work as a civil servant, nonprofit leader, Miss Senior World Virginia's 60s, Dr. Crosslin has dedicated her life to empowering others and building a more inclusive world. And tonight we're very lucky to have her. And let's join me as we give a warm welcome to Dr. Gloria Crosslin to A Time for Truth show. Let's bring her up on the screen, Buddha. Welcome, Dr. Crosslin.
Hi there. I'm my biggest fan and cheerleader.
Well, you got a great smile and you got tremendous energy. So I want to get right to it because I know you have so much to share. You know, your journey really on many levels is very inspiring. But let's start at the beginning, because you credited your mother a lot, Mrs. Earlene Crosslin, as the driving force behind your passion for justice, for service, and her landmark Supreme Court case. Please tell us, about her and how it shaped your path.
Thank you so much for having me. It is such a delight and an honor to be on your show again. When I first met you, I saw you with a microphone and all the filming and equipment. And I was like, who is that guy? And everyone was like, that's Dr. Fialkoff. And I asked her, I said, can I be on your show? And you said, sure, come on over. And you interviewed me. I don't know if you remember that, at the National Press Club. And I've been just admiring you ever since, from your dental career and all of the activities and that you've been doing. So you have been a role model to me and the world as well, in the drug-free world. And you have taught us a lot at the United Nations and all that you do. So thank you again for having me here. To address your question and your issue, what my mom was like, a lot like me. So she always fought for what was right. And sometimes it would take days, but she wouldn't give up. And when she was fighting for her rights at equal employment, I don't think at that time she knew the impact that she was going to have, because a lot of her fights that were a little bit smaller did change the way things were operating. But to this impact where it affected the whole entire nation, when the president's person showed up at our door inviting my mom to the White House, it was at that moment we realized, wow, this is really big.
Wow.
So
Well,
that's the mom I had, just a lot like me.
congratulations. I mean, obviously, that's a tremendous recognition, acknowledgement for what she did. And I'm curious, was she a quiet person? Was she like, talkative? What was she like?
Well, she worked a lot. And when I say work, that meant at home. And there were always celebrities at the house, celebrities like yourself, movers and shakers, always at our house, and they were always working. And that's what I remember about my mom. I would see like senators, one of her very good friends, a governor, and they were always working at the house.
Very interesting. I can see why you said that you're very similar to her because every time I see you, that's what you're doing, and you do so many things, and you know,
True.
it's a great legacy with your mom, and it makes it so special that it's your mother. I know I have a lot of fond memories of my father and mother, and I never told you, but I became a surgeon, but really I was talking to my wife the other day, and I said to Maria, I said, I really have to give credit to my parents, because if it wasn't for them, it may not have happened. And so I know you feel the same way. You built an impressive career aside from that in public service, and you worked, as in LA as a 9/11 operator for the police department, for the Inglewood Police and Fire Department. And, it's like you've always been involved in everything. What did you learn in those experiences in LA?
Thank you for that question. And looking back, oh, by the way, I want to tell Miss Maria hello. She knows I love her.
Thank you.
Um,
I will.
yeah, thank you. As a 911 operator for Los Angeles and Inglewood was eye-opening for me. It was a lot of crime. Um, that's the sad part. Having to ask someone why they committed a crime and only to be told over and over, I don't know, is eye-opening to say the least. And I can see why they call it the Wild Wild West, because there was just too much crime. And that's what I learned. Um, and then having been shot a couple of times, um, even though I didn't let the bullet penetrate me, it hit my car. And I'm like, I don't want to live like this. And that was before I was riding the bus to work. And a bunch of girls asked me, what was I looking at? And I said nothing. I didn't know what to say, because no matter what I said, they were still wanting to fight. So that's when I went and bought me a car. I'm like, okay, The bus system is really good because you can catch a bus every 5 minutes, literally, in LA, where in a lot of other towns, if the bus comes, it's going to be a long time. So I went and purchased a car, and that still wasn't safe. And so I wanted to move because I felt that that's no way to live. And most people that live there like it. And it is a nice place to live other than crime.
Yeah, it's really a shame that certain elements in our society cause so much oppression, overwhelm, fear, and they just there's no concept of the value of what a life really is, because until you lose someone that a number doesn't mean anything. It's a person, someone you're never going to see again, and you go, well, what was it for? We're all going to go anyway sooner or later. Why do we? You're so right about what you're saying, and very interesting that you had that at the beginning of your life to really, really kind of like give you a reality of life. Wow. So from those experiences, it's interesting because you went on and you founded Mr. DC, which is a nonprofit organization that celebrates the men who lead, though, through volunteering, who lead through mentoring others. You weren't just like doing looks or whatever. You were doing qualities of giving back to the society, giving back to people who need it. Tell us a little bit more about how you came up with this idea, because that's really innovative. You always hear about, Miss this and Miss Universe, but you didn't hear about Mr. DC. For weightlifting, but you didn't hear about Mr. DC, mentorship and volunteerism. So how did that come about?
Thank you for that question. So Mr. DC came about because I was watching television and I saw George Floyd being murdered. And at that point, I was like, that's it. All I've been seeing on television are men being pushed back and held down too long. And there must be positive role models in the community. So we set out to find those positive role models. The first year winner, Mr. DC, was working for the United States President of the United States at the White House. And he was the winner for the inaugural Mr. DC. The first runner-up, Mr. DC, he wasn't happy that he didn't win the title. He raised over $500,000 to pay for child care for the moms in Washington, D.C. who were underprivileged and didn't have money to pay for child care. And then the list goes on and on with the first year's royal ambassadors, is what we call them, the positive role models in Maryland, Virginia, and D.C. who either work or have a career or connections with the DMV. They were able and qualified as volunteers because they had 20 hours of community service. So the community actually helped to support Mr. DC and get it started. And Mayor Cross was a force to be reckoned with. She was like, there are a lot of positive role models, and we're going to put them to work. And they were out in the community working twice as hard.
Very nice. Well, where do you hold your events?
So the first year's Mr. DC was at the MGM.
Very
The second
nice.
year, Mr. DC was at the Salamander.
Very nice.
And
And
go ahead.
no, go ahead. I interrupted you.
And so the third year was at a fancy place. And this time it was at the Martin Luther King Library Auditorium.
Very appropriate. Very nice. Especially his birthday just passed on Monday. a celebration actually. And yeah, I mean, in August we were down in D.C. for the Million Woman March, celebrating his march in 1963 with Latisse Porter and a lot of people from Chicago and different parts of the country, like you, who trying to help the country. And so, you know, what's been the response of the community to your Mr. DC project?
So the response has been tremendous. And I actually got a standing ovation at MLK Library Auditorium. We invited the National Cathedral. His name is Dr. Canon Leonard Hamlin Sr. He opened in prayer, and we had a race relations panel to discuss inequities and injustice, and Mayor Cross was the moderator. Miss M, the owner of Global Television Networks, Fox 5 Plus in Washington, D.C., and the NCRC Community Development Director, Dr. Sam McNeil, and the exquisite Professor Akazi, who is a Howard professor in charge of the English department, filmmaker, and everyone in the audience are history makers, trailblazers, and we would have been there all night, but we knew we were on a mission, and we all hugged. Cynthia Hullen was there as a judge. Patricia Watts of Remodel was the lead judge. Dr. Moby, pilot, engineer, sleep doctor, a lot of surgeons like yourself there supporting Mr. DC. We had a wonderful time. Ambassador Bishop Reverend Dr. Georgie Holmes Jr., celebrity judge, and everyone. It was just like a reunion as well, because some of the previous Mr. Royal ambassadors also competed again. And they were really polished because they had, they knew what to expect. So they brought their A game.
Well, that's nice. Congratulations. And I wanted to ask you, because not only do all this, but you're also an author, and you published a book on your mother's story, and it's called Crossing Over on the Shoulders of Giants. And what I want to ask you, what is the message that you want readers to take away from your book, Crossing Over on the Shoulders of Giants?
Thank you for that question. I will be brief with that answer. What I want readers to get out of it, whenever they read where it states you will not be discriminated against because of the color of your skin or race or gender, it's because of my mom's landmark Supreme Court decision.
Very nice.
And when my mom was celebrated for her achievement, it was at the America West Arena in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where I met Miss Rosa Parks. I shook her hand, and Stevie Wonder was singing the songs and everything on the stage, and he had a choir for backup, and my cousin at that time was in charge of the choir and the director, and it was a really huge choir. And they bussed in over 10,000 students. And so the arena was packed with citizens and my mom on the stage. They wouldn't let me get close to her. And I was sitting in a certain area where I had access to backstage, and that's where I met Miss Rosa Parks.
Very nice. Well, and then you go on, and you don't stop there, because now you're Miss Senior World Virginia 60s in 2024 to inspire other people. And, how does, this role that you have with this align with your overall purpose that you already had?
That is a really good question, because I want to be a voice for people who don't have a voice. And this crown provides many opportunities for people to be able to listen because they are curious. What is the crown for? And I let them know it's to bridge the gap between generations and to be a voice for the voiceless. In fact, one of the pictures that you showed of me with the Speaker of the House and with the House Majority Leader, Honorable Mr. Scalise, he said that I am America's queen, that I am the queen of America.
Wow. Tremendous recognition, right?
Yes, sir.
That's beautiful. Well, that it's just nice when others recognize you. It's good to have pride, but it's really nice to have other people recognize your good works, the things that you're doing for others. And that's a real tribute that he said that to you. And, what I wanted to ask you, because I know people watching the show and they go, how does this woman have the energy, the time, and keep going? So what I wanted to ask you is this dynamic individual that I have on the screen here with a great smile. Share, if you will, what are your secrets to keeping going and succeeding and just going and succeeding and keep going? What is the secret? Or what are the secrets?
The community. Meeting Doug Williams and seeing his immense energy, and Magic Johnson in France, that was just truly amazing. And seeing his energy. I remember when Magic Johnson, his limousine pulled up to the event where I was assisting him. He told me, he said, let's do this. And I was like, okay. And so we got that done. And so that was energy propelling there. Good role models give me energy. And then when I met Coach Renee at our homecoming dinner, she said, oh, I'm a professional cheerleader and I cheered for the NBA and the NFL, and I would like for you to cheer with me. And I'm like, okay. And so, so I did that. I was able to be a cheerleader at the Washington Commanders versus Tennessee Titans game. And it was Coach Renee that taught us our dance steps. And she is truly a professional. And a lot of the other ladies that I recruited are also former professional cheerleaders like myself. And so we had 3 generations cheering together. We had the young girls, the youth, and the moms. And I was like a grandmother to some of the younger girls. And it was a great time we had. And so Miss M, her granddaughters were cheering out there as well. There was like 30 of us all together. And so now the Washington Commanders are in the playoffs, and us girls attributed that to us dancing on the field.
It probably is, probably true. And so our world is kind of going off the rails in a lot of different directions. And I wanted to ask you, if you were granted 3 wishes, and you had 3 wishes for the world, what would you want to see and wish change in the world?
One of the wishes would be your wish, which is to have a drug-free world.
Thank you.
My second wish is Fopal's wish, that we would have peace and love. The third wish would be Bobby Hunter's wish from of the original Globetrotters, which his wish is that we would all be one.
Well, that's very beautiful. And for Bobby Hunter, for Fopal and Dr. Hong, and for myself and Drug Free World, thank you for those wishes. And I wanted to ask you, because we're getting near the end of the show, and we should mention Mayor Johnny Ford and the World Conference of Mayors that's going to be happening in Eatonville, Florida, this Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Eatonville from I think it's the 27th to the 1st of February. And a lot of people from all over the country coming. I'm going to be there. Bobby Hunter's going to be there. There's a man who's a friend of mine flying from Los Angeles, Loa Galpers, who represents a group called The Way to Happiness, is going to be there. I know you'll be there. So, thank you, Johnny Ford, for bringing all these people together with your World Conference of Mayors and Historic Black Towns and Cities Association. And I wanted to ask you, Dr. Crosslin, what closing message would you like to leave all those people out there watching this show?
I think it's a tremendous work and vision and leadership that Mayor Ford has for World Conference of Mayors and bringing us all together in Eatonville. And I'm on the grant writing committee, and I want to thank all of the World Conference of Mayors honorables for being wonderful role models, and all of them mentor me all the time. And I wouldn't be able to be a queen if I wasn't their queen. And I appreciate them so much. And that is my closing remarks. I love all of them, all of the queen mothers, and all of the role modeling that they do, because that is the role of a queen mother. That is the role of mayors, to be role models. And they are fulfilling those shoes every day.
I wholeheartedly agree. For those of you watching, let's apply like Dr. Crosslin is doing. Let's go out. Let's bring unity to the community. Let's bring positivity. Like she said, we have enough negativity. Let's find the positivity. Let's create things like she did with Mr. DC, with her book, with her actions, and let's move our world forward in 2025. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dr. Crosslin.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Friends of the African Union. Thank you, Chairman Daniels.
Pleasure to have you. And we'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Have a very good night.
Thank you, Dr. Fialkoff.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet